Hello, guys. How are you? I hope you're having a nice day today. I am back with another ghost story. And as usual, I have my little friend here to help keep me company while I tell this story. Gonna sit her in my lap. Okay. Now, this was in the 1960s. My family and I were living at the Cottage Grove house, but this didn't happen at the Cottage Grove house. Now, like I said in some of the past stories, there were strange things that were happening everywhere throughout the neighborhood. Strange sightings, spirits walking down the street, and you knew they were spirits. Hauntings and different things happening inside the apartments, as well as on the street. Now, my mom, she had a friend that she used to go and visit all the time. Not every day, but 2 or 3 times a week. And my mom, she would go and she would stay a while, and then she would come back. Well, one day, my mom came back. She didn't stay quite as long as she normally do. She came back, and I always ask her, how was her visit and everything. Now, my mom, she used to talk to me all the time. It seemed like out of the 3 kids, I was the only one that was really interested in what was going on with her. My oldest brother and my twin brother, they were busy doing their own thing. So I noticed that she had came home early one day. And, I asked her how her day was, how was a visit with her friend, and she said fine. And I mentioned that she didn't stay as long as she normally stay. So my mom says, I gotta tell you something. So we sit down on the sofa, and my mom tells me, she says, there's something strange going on at my friend's house. And so I asked her, I said, what do you mean? She said, every time I go over there. Now, first of all, I need to tell you how her apartment was set up so you can get a visual. All right. It was a brownstone building. So there was an apartment on each side. When you come up the stairs from the street, and then you come through the door, because there was 2 doors. One door went to the apartment on one side of the brownstone, and the other door went to where my mom's friend stayed at. When you're facing the brownstone from the street, her door was on the right side. So you come through the door and you come up the stairs this way, and then there was a door to the apartment. Now, when you come inside the apartment, there was an open room. It would have been considered a dining room because it was right next to the kitchen, which once you come through the door, the kitchen was on the right-hand side, and then there was the living room. And then to the left, the dining room, and then to the left was the living room. Now, this place was set up really strange and different because it wasn't an open living room. There was a wall and a door that led into the living room, which was the very front of the house. You could look out the windows and see the street out in front. And so that door was to the left. And then my mom's friend, the way she had her furniture set up, she had a sofa on that wall that led, the living room was behind it, closed-in living room was behind it. And then there was another sofa in front, like facing each other, and then the coffee table in the middle. And my mom, she would always sit on the opposite sofa that was facing toward the kitchen. So my mom told me, she said, every time I go over there, she said, the place feels funny and strange. It feels like we're not alone. And so I kept questioning, asking her what she meant. And she said, at a certain time, after I get over there, the door to the living room starts creaking and opening a little bit. Not wide open, but opening a little bit. Maybe so many inches, and then it would close. And it does that a couple of times, maybe 2 or 3 times while I'm there. And every time that happens, I notice my friend will turn and look back at the door. And then she'll turn back and face me, and then we'll start talking again. So I asked my mom, I said, well, have you seen anything? Because my mom is able to see ghosts and spirits and stuff. And my mom says, no, I haven't seen anything. She said, but I asked her, was anybody there in the apartment besides her, because of the door constantly opening? And my mom says her friend told her, no, it's just us. I'm here by myself. The kids are at school. My husband is at work. And it's just me, and you come to visit, it's you and me. So my mom, she left it alone. She said she left it alone and she didn't question her anymore about it. And of course it was time to leave. And so my mom left and she came home. So I asked my mom, I said, well, are you going back to visit her again? My mom says, well, as long as I don't see anything, I'll go back to visit her. She's by herself all day. And, when I come over, we drink coffee and everything, and we talk, and, then it's time for me to come back. So I asked my mom, I said, well, next time you go over, can I go with you? And my mom said, yeah, you can go with me. So we didn't go back over until the next week. And everything looked normal outside. It was very quiet and still. And we came up the stairs, and the door came up the stairs and came inside the apartment. And so my mom says, I brought my daughter with me. I hope you don't mind. She wanted to come and meet you. And my mom's friend said, no, I don't mind. Said, this is the little girl you've been talking about? And my mom said, yeah. So she had the coffee, the cups and stuff already set up on the table, on the coffee table. And she went to the kitchen and she got the coffee, and she brought out, I think it was some juice, or it could have been water or something, milk or something. and a little plate that had a couple of cookies. She asked my mom, said, can she have a couple of cookies? And my mom says, yes. And so that was the setup. Hey, do I have something to tell you? All right, guys, it is story time. Fictional to reality, real life events, things that I experienced because I was there. From ghosts to spirits, witches to witchcraft, hoodoo to voodoo, devils and demons. If you believe in these things, even if you don't, check out the videos. Like, comment, subscribe, and share. Join my friend and I in telling these stories. They're all in a playlist. Now, I was sitting next to my mom on the sofa that was facing the other sofa that my mom's friend was sitting on, against the wall that leads into the living room. And sure enough, after we had been there for a certain amount of time, the door, I was facing the door, and so was my mom. And the door opened. Not that far, but the door opened, stayed open for a short period of time, so many seconds or whatever, and it closed back. And my mom's friend turned around and looked back at the door. And I started getting chills. So I grabbed my mom. I didn't grab her. I scooted closer to her. And then my mom's friend was asking me how old I was, if I was in school, how I liked school, and this, that, and the other. And we were talking and everything. And she said, oh, say, your daughter is really smart. And she asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up. You know, all the questions that grown-ups ask kids and stuff. And a short time afterward, the same thing happened. The door to the living room opened up, not that far, but opened up a little bit, and then it closed again. And of course, my mom's friend looked back at the door again. So my mom said to her friend, are you sure nobody's here with you? And my mom's friend said, yeah, I'm sure it's just me by myself. And now you and your daughter's here, is the three of us. And my mom asked her, well, do you have a window open in the living room? Because the door keeps opening and closing. And every time the door opens and closes, you know, you turn and look at the door. And my mom's friend said, no, I don't have the living room windows open. And so my mom says, why do you keep turning and looking back at the door when it opens and closes? And my mom's friend tells my mom, it's just a habit. It happens all the time. And every time it happens, I just turn around and look back. So my mom told her friend, she said, I think your place is haunted. And my mom's friend looks at her and she starts smiling. She said, really? And my mom said, yeah, I think the place is haunted. Your place is haunted. If nobody is here with you and the door is constantly opening and closing and there's no windows open, no heavy trucks have come by to make the house, the apartment shake or anything. It's quiet outside. She said, yeah, I think your apartment is haunted. Without a second thought, the lady looks at my mom and she starts giggling a little bit. And my mom says, what's funny? And the lady said, this place is haunted. And she tells my mom, she says, that happens all the time while I'm here. It don't happen at night, but in the daytime, that door always opens and it'll open by itself and it'll close by itself. And it does that several times during the day, but it doesn't do it at night. And she tells my mom, she says, not only that, she said a certain time a day, you can hear footsteps coming up the stairs, and then the front door to the hallway will open up, and a line of people will come through the door and go straight into that room, and you can hear talking and mumbling and everything for a short period of time, and then it'll stop. So my mom thought she was joshing. She says, well, that's funny. Every time I'm over here, she said, you say that happens every day at a certain time? Lady said, my mom's friend said, yeah. And my mom says, well, that's funny. She said, now, I believe your place is haunted because of the door constantly opening and closing. She said, but I haven't seen any spirits. And it's a funny thing that nothing like that ever happened when I was here visiting. And my friend just came right out without a second thought and said, oh, that's because you always leave before it happens. And I scooted a little bit closer to my mom, and I grabbed onto her arm and was holding on her real tight. In fact, I got up and went around to the other side of my mom because I was sitting closest to the door, and sit down on the opposite side of her where she was between me and the door. So my mom says to her friend, well, about what time does that happen where these people come up the stairs and go into the room? My mom's friend raised her arm, looked at her watch, and she said, about a minute from now. Well, it was too late for us to leave. And there is no way I wanted to be going down those stairs if people that was not alive, that were spirits or ghosts, was coming up the stairs. So I started pulling my mom's arm this way. And my mom looks down at me. She said, don't worry. She said, I'm here with you. I'm not going to let anything happen to you. And the lady looks at me, and my eyes are starting to swell up because it looks like I'm getting ready to cry. And she looks at me, my mom's friend looks at me, and she said, don't worry. They're not going to hurt you. Said they don't even stop. They just come through the door. They come up the stairs, come through the door, and head straight for that room. They don't stop. They don't look. This is what they do every day. And by the time she finished telling me that, we heard footsteps. First, we heard the door downstairs where the porch is, where the outside is, open. And then we heard footsteps coming up the stairs. And my mom's friend said, here they come right now. And I am really squeezing onto my mom's arm. I'm kind of scrunched down because I didn't want any of what was getting ready to happen to see me or anything. And my mom's friend tells her again, she says, don't worry. They are not going to hurt you. They don't even stop. You watch and see. They're just going to come up the stairs, through the door, into the room. And so many seconds later, the front door to my mom's friend's apartment opened. And I'm peeking around just a little bit to see if I could see. Of course, I can't see ghosts, so I didn't see anything. My mom reared back, so I know she saw something. But I could hear the footsteps. I could hear the door, of course, the door when it opened downstairs, and I could hear the footsteps coming up the stairs. I saw the door open to the apartment, and I heard the footsteps going, and then the door to the living room opened all the way up this time. It opened all the way up. And once the footsteps stopped after they were in the room, then the door closed back. All of a sudden, you could hear loud talking, mumbling, but you couldn't understand what was being said. Even though we was in the next room, it just seemed like we wasn't close enough. And my mom, she scoots a little forward on the sofa, and she said, "Oh shit, you can have it." And my mom's friend said, "You see that? I told you they're not going to bother us. They do this every day. I sit here and I'm drinking coffee. Sometimes I'm watching TV or whatever, and this happens every day at this exact time." So my mom asked her, said, "Well, why don't you move if this is going on every day?" Hey, do I have something to tell you? All right, guys, it is story time. Fictional to reality, real life events, things that I experienced because I was there. From ghosts to spirits, witches to witchcraft, hoodoo to voodoo, devils and demons. If you believe in these things, even if you don't, check out the videos. Like, comment, subscribe, and share. Join my friend and I in telling these stories. They're all in a playlist. And my mom's friend says, they don't bother me. As long as they don't bother me, I won't bother them. You know how the old joke goes. And my mom gets up. She got me by the wrist, not the hand, the wrist, a tight grip. And she tells my friend, she said, "You know I love you, girl." She said, "But I would not be back." So my mom's friend, she said, "Oh, they're not going to hurt you. They don't bother anybody." And my mom looks at her and she said, "You heard what I said. I said I'm not coming back." And of course she had me by the wrist, and we got out of there as fast as possible. As fast as possible. My mom was going down the stairs as fast as she could. I was holding on to the railings, to the banister, and I was trying to run as fast as I could, and we got out of there. And we never went back. One day, my mom's friend came over to visit us where we stayed at. And my mom asked her, said, "Are you okay?" And she said, "Yeah." She said, "I just come stop by to give you the new address." Because my mom says, "New address? What are you talking about, new address?" She said, "My husband and the kids and I were moving." So my mom asked her, say, "Well, why are you guys moving? Is it because of the people coming into the house?" And she said yes. And my mom says, "But you, last time I was over there, you told me that stuff didn't bother you, and as long as they didn't bother you, you wouldn't bother them." So what happened? They started bothering you? And my mom's friend said, "No, they didn't start bothering me." She said, "My husband was home from work one day. He had took a day off from work. And him and I was sitting in the in the dining room watching TV. And it was right at the time that the people the spirits and stuff was coming up the stairs. And she said, my husband looked at me and asked, what, did you invite somebody over? Who's coming up the stairs to visit us? Who's coming to visit us? And I told him nobody. And all of a sudden the door flung open, and the same group of people, they were dressed in, she said they were dressed in old, like colonial like clothes from that era, or maybe a little after that era, whatever. And he saw them go into that room. And he jumped up. And he asked me what the hell was going on. And I told him everything that I told you. I told him everything that you saw when the last time you came to visit. And he said, if this is going on here every day, he said, we're not staying here anymore. We're moving. So she said, so I just came to give you the new address, so that we can keep in contact with each other. So my mom asked her, said, well, do you know why that's happening at the place? Why is that happening at your place? So my mom's friend told my mom, said, oh, you didn't know. She said, the family that originally owned this building before the guy bought the building that I'm renting an apartment from, they were a white family. And their daughter passed away. And during that time, that they would set up the coffin in the living room in front of the window, and that's where they held their wake. She said the daughter passed away from some type of disease, and so that's the reason why that's happening. And she said, so I'm getting ready to go, and she said, please keep in touch. She said, I'm sorry that you had to witness what you witnessed, and I want us to keep in touch. You're one of my best friends. So my mom said, okay. And the lady my mom's friend gave her a hug, and she left and everything. And I looked at my mom's and I asked her, I said, are you going over to see her at the new place? My mom looked at me and said, hell no, I'm not going over there. Who knows if she was able to sit through all that stuff that was happening at the place she's moving from? Who knows what is going on at the new place? She said, hell no. She said, if I had a phone, I would call her and keep up in contact with her. She said, but no, I'm not going over to the new place. So that's the end of the story, guys. I hope you liked it. And my friend, she did pretty good today. She wasn't scared or anything. I will be back with another ghost story in a short period of time. I know I'm not consistent like I should be with these ghost stories. I have other things and projects that I'm also working on. So sorry about that, guys, but I will never forget about the ghost stories, and I will always be on the channel uploading ghost stories. So with that being said, let's work together to live better. And always, always thank you for watching. And say goodbye to my little friend here. And please come back for upcoming ghost stories. Bye for now.